Well, TikTok is back from the dead, so I guess it makes sense that it now sort of feels like a reanimated corpse. Just seems like, there's a lot more grunting than I remember. However, I guess it could just be the Trumpers gloating in the comments. They do kind of speak in grunts. But that's really the crux of this, because while I'm absolutely ecstatic that TikTok is back, because, maybe I'll get to eat next month, and I absolutely love the TikTok community, and I'm not quite ready to give up on it. The fact that the man who started the crusade to ban TikTok because it hurt his fragile little ego, now saving TikTok because it's stroking his ego harder than all those Epstein parties that he went to, is problematic and has some serious consequences. First of all you Trumpers in the comment section just shh. No, I know it's hard, but I'm gonna need you to shut the fuck up. You don't get to paint somebody as a savior for putting out the house fire that they themselves fucking started. Remember, he was the one trying to ban TikTok before it was cool because a bunch of Gen Zers used the platform to coordinate getting a bunch of tickets to his rally that they then didn't show up for, so it was empty, and that hurt his fragile little feelings. And now, because he was told that TikTok is the reason that he performed slightly better with younger voters than he was polling, now it's making him feel good and he wants to keep it around because he can't handle not having his ego constantly coddled. So screw him. He is a fascist piece of shit yesterday, he's a fascist piece of shit today, and he'll be a fascist piece of shit tomorrow, and this doesn't change any of that. In fact, this really only exemplifies the fascist fuckery afoot. Starting with the fact that this bill really wasn't passed in a legitimate manner. Now, it was passed legally, they didn't do anything, that was against the rules, but they couldn't pass a TikTok ban as a standalone bill. They've tried repeatedly for years. So instead, to get it passed, they shoved it into a must-pass humanitarian/genocide aid package that had absolutely nothing to do with TikTok. And therefore, the merits of the bill were never even debated on the House or Senate floor before it was passed or not passed. And all the previous bills they tried to pass as standalone bills, when they were debated, weren't passed. So, again, not real legitimate. And then Congress unanimously voted to extend the deadline for 270 days so they could actually give it the proper attention it deserved. Or I should say, almost unanimously, except we had a cotton-picking senator from Arkansas who fucked all that up too. Okay, timeout. Can I tell you how hard it is to film when I've got this thing looking at me, wagging her little tail like that? Like, oh my goodness, how am I supposed to do my job? How am I supposed to do my job? And then the way that they, save it, quote unquote, was clearly orchestrated just to make Trump look like a savior. Somebody said that this reminds them of the way that Reagan sabotaged the Iranian hostages getting released until his inauguration day to make himself look good and Carter look bad. And that feels painfully accurate, except we were the hostages this time. And then they took it away from us. They took away what 7 million small businesses used to make a living. They took away what millions of creators used to make a living, what 175 million people use every day to communicate with each other. Just to show that they could take it all away from us. But don't worry, we have a hero for you. Even though the Constitution and your First Amendment rights couldn't save you and the will of the people couldn't save you, Donald Trump came riding in on his white horse to save you because you made him feel good. And he'll continue to do that so long as you keep kissing the ring. Speaking of making him feel good, TikTok repeatedly gagging on Trump's little orange Tic Tac is just cringes as fuck. This shit needs to stop. But of course, that's part of the problem there too. I'm entirely certain that they have to do this or Trump wouldn't have agreed to it in the first place, which is, dictator shit. And of course, this shit makes us worried about what Lazarus effect this is going to have on TikTok's reanimated corpse now that Trump's clearly got some strings tied to it. But well beyond TikTok, this just represents an entire failure of the government functioning the way it's supposed to function, because Congress is supposed to represent the will of the people and the president is not supposed to be able to unilaterally do whatever the hell he wants based on his fucking feelings. This problem never should have gotten to this point, and it damn sure shouldn't have been rectified in this way. And the fact that we are now subject not to the laws of our country, not to the Constitution, not to the will of the people, but instead to the whims of our oligarchs who have personally purchased the entirety of Washington, who are committing no crimes when they literally bribe our judges. Not joking, as long as they give judges money or gifts after a case is decided, it's not considered a bribe. But don't worry, the judicial system investigated themselves engaging in this practice and found that they themselves were doing nothing wrong. So we are either subject to the wishes of our oligarchs or the irrational mood swings of an Adderall-addicted dementia patient. And none of this is good, okay? None of that's good. And once again, I'm ecstatic that TikTok is still operational. That's a good thing for me, but this is a bad thing. This entire clusterfuck that led us to this point in the first place is bad for us and for the entire world. But if anything, this should show us that there is no left and right problem in our country. There is a top and bottom problem. This legislation, as most of the legislation that ends up fucking us over, was bipartisan. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican at this point, I think we can all agree that working people should be represented by working people. I think we can all agree that we don't need people who claimed they had bone spurs to get out of fighting at Gettysburg representing a population that's an average age of 38 and a half years old. I think we can all agree that money isn't speech, corporations are not people, and we should not be allowing them to purchase our elections and our politicians. I think we can all agree that a handful of billionaires shouldn't control the majority of the wealth in the United States while they continuously get handouts from the middle class, all while we have people going homeless, hungry, and sick in the streets. I think we can all agree that everybody out there working for a living deserves a living wage. I think we can all agree that regardless of who we vote for, we know that our representatives do not represent we the people, they represent the ruling class, and that needs to change. And I think it's pretty fucking apparent that the reason that they want to ban TikTok is because that's the place that we've been talking about all of those problems and their potential solutions. And a united population is never going to be popular with the people who profit from our oppression. Now, do I think TikTok is perfect or even great? No, TikTok's got lots of problems. I would love to see a creator-owned co-op platform. That would be my dream. A place where we get to dictate the policies of the platform as a group and shareholder returns aren't the primary concern. But right now, we don't have that. So TikTok is what we have, and we need to use that and every other platform to the fullest extent we can to come together as a country. We need to use it to start putting populist candidates in every single primary in every single election. We need to use these platforms to speak truth to power, to organize while we still have the ability to do so. Because we have entered a new era, not only in the United States, but in the world, and the direction that this era goes depends entirely on what we all do right now.